If we look first of all at the zooming function and the focus functions, then that's really the starting point for you. Most of these are controlled through the lens here, which is a very, very advanced lens. Now, usually in the Canon XM2 we use this button here for zooming in and out. We have the T for telescopic, that zooms in, and the W for wide lens, that zooms out. However, in the Canon XL1s there is much more control to this, and that's because we have these two rings here. None of this actually applies if you are shooting on this little button here on autofocus AF. So if you've got this on AF, then basically the camera does everything for you, and that's the most basic way that you can use it. To be honest, if you're doing it that way, then you might as well be using a Canon XM2. These cameras offer a lot more capability, and therefore they should be used for that capability. So in order to achieve that, you would push this button here onto M for manual focus. Okay? Now the rest of these buttons seem very complex, but actually there's not a great deal to them. This button here you can see is push AF. Now push autofocus you don't need, so you should ignore that button. This button here is noise distortion. Again, you can ignore that and switch it to off all the time, unless you're shooting maybe in dark conditions, in which case you might want to put it on. And finally, the image stabilizer, again, something you should have on all the time. So these three buttons at the top you don't really need to press. It's only this autofocus and manual one down the bottom which we're looking at. While we're on manual, then basically we have these two rings here, and this first ring acts in exactly the same way as the zoom function that we had over the other side. So if you are better with your left hand, you can use this to zoom in and zoom out. However, that will then unfocus your camera a little bit. So what we can do is use this ring to just adjust the focus. Now this is the ring that people use to get that slightly blurry effect, or to change the focus. For instance, if we were focusing first on the camera and then on this box behind, well, using the camera I'm shooting with at the moment, everything is in focus. However, using this camera, you could pull that focus ring so that first this was in focus, but the background was out, and then the background comes into focus and this comes out, and that can produce some very, very interesting effects. So it's well worth trying to get used to using that. In terms of sound controls, these sound controls are over here, and they are basically your recording levels. Now you can see this little monitor here is where the recording levels are basically established. So if I turn the camera on to a very basic level, you should be able to see, if I just press a little button there, well, actually you don't need to press it, you can see hopefully that this is going up and down because it's recording the sound of my voice. That is your sound monitor. All the levels for the sound, however, are adjusted here with this little flip box that opens up. Now the vast majority of the time people record using the A button, which is automatic. In other words, it will record whatever's going on. The only time you might need to change that to manual is if you're recording in a very, very loud environment, or recording very loud sounds which cause distortion, in which case you would put it onto M, and you can then flick the amount that is being recorded, the amount of noise that's being recorded, up or down. So for instance, in a very quiet environment, you might flick it to manual and then turn the sound up on both speakers so that you could hear the minutest little noises. However, if you were recording really, really big noises, like an explosion, don't go recording explosions, okay? But if you were, you could turn that down so it doesn't distort things too much. Again, these down here are the inputs, and most of the time you're going to be going for a mic. That is pretty much where we go all the time, unless you're using external mics that we don't have. We will only use the boom mics. Now, to attach all our peripherals, we can't actually make out this sound unless we know what's going on. At the moment, I'm busy shooting, and I don't know whether the sound is any good. So if we come to this area here and just pull this off, this is where your headphones go. And every camera set should come with a set of headphones so that you can record what's going on. There's the headphones. Here's my jack, and I put it in there. That means I can hear whatever is coming out of this microphone. Now sometimes I'm not going to want to shoot with that microphone because it might be a little bit too far away from my subject. Let's say if my subject is about 5 or 6 feet away. In which case I can disconnect this little wire here. Now that basically means this is useless now, but you can see the mic button has 2 little holes there for this to fit in. We're going to use the biggest one to attach a boom mic. Now we should know all about boom mics by now, the dead badger fluffy thing. And basically it's this jack that goes on the end of it that gets slotted in here, and as soon as that's done you will hopefully see that if I turn this back round, you can see there's no sound indication on the levels there. That's because I haven't switched the microphone on. If on the other hand I switch the microphone on, then we can start to get some sound.